The Great Hall of Veltar Prime stretched higher than any building on Earth. Crystal walls glowed with soft blue light, and the air hummed with strange energy. Kyung-ho stood in the center of the massive room, feeling very small. Around him, 12 different alien species sat on platforms that floated in the air. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times. Earth's first real meeting with the galaxy. The chance to join something bigger than their small world. But now, looking up at the towering aliens, his mouth felt dry. "Welcome, human representative," said a voice that sounded like glass breaking. The speaker was made of living crystal, tall as a tree, with light dancing inside its body. "I am Counselor Shard Ennis of the Veltari. We have reviewed your species request." Kyung-ho bowed politely. "Thank you for meeting with us, honored counselors. Earth hopes to contribute to galactic peace and progress." A wet, bubbling laugh echoed through the hall. One of the floating platforms held what looked like a giant jellyfish in a water tank. "Contribute?" it gurgled. "What could you possibly offer us, little landwalker?" "We are willing to share our knowledge and work alongside other civilized species," Kyung-ho replied, keeping his voice steady. "Knowledge?" The crystal being's voice rang with amusement. "Your species has barely left its home system. You still use chemical rockets and metal bullets." Hyojin, standing behind Kyung-ho, shifted slightly. She wore a simple blue uniform, but her eyes were sharp and alert. As Earth's military attaché, she had seen the reports. She knew what their weapons could really do. A new voice spoke, sounding like wind through caves. The speaker was a cloud of glowing gas held in a clear container. "We have studied your military technology. Very primitive. Energy shields make your kinetic weapons useless." "Kinetic weapons can be quite effective," Hyojin said quietly. "Our railguns, for example, can achieve remarkable velocities." The jellyfish creature bubbled again. "Railguns? You mean throwing metal sticks very fast? How wonderfully simple!" "They do move quite fast," Hyojin said with a small smile. The gas being swirled in what might have been laughter. "Child species always think speed matters. When you have proper shields, it makes no difference if your little metal pieces fly fast or slow." A reptilian creature with golden scales leaned forward. "Perhaps we should explain how real weapons work. Energy projection systems can destroy entire ships without needing to physically touch them." Kyung-ho nodded respectfully. "We would be honored to learn from more advanced species." "Advanced?" The Crystal Counselor's voice chimed. "We are not simply advanced. We are evolved beyond your understanding. The Veltari mastered energy manipulation 10,000 years ago. The Aquari have shields that can stop anything physical. The Nethys can destroy matter at the molecular level." "Very impressive," Kyung-ho said. He meant it. These beings could do things that seemed like magic to humans. "It is not impressive," the reptilian snorted. "It is basic. Every civilized species learns these things. Your people are still in the metal and fire stage of development." "Everyone starts somewhere," Hyojin said calmly. "Indeed," the jellyfish bubbled. "Which is why we have a special category for species like yours. Protected developing status. You will have limited trade rights and can learn from observing real civilizations." "Think of it as cosmic kindergarten," the gas being whispered, and several counselors made sounds that might have been laughter. Kyung-ho felt heat rise in his face, but he kept smiling. "We appreciate any opportunity to grow." "You will need supervision, of course," the Crystal Counselor announced. "Developing species often make dangerous mistakes. Your weapons technology especially concerns us." "Our weapons?" Kyung-ho asked. "Kinetic projectiles are so unpredictable," the reptilian explained. "You fire a piece of metal and hope it hits something. No precision, no control. Very messy. Plus the environmental damage," added another voice from a platform holding something. That looked like a floating brain. Metal pieces flying everywhere. What if they hit something important? Hyojin's jaw tightened slightly. We take great care with targeting and safety protocols. I am sure you try, the jellyfish said in a tone used for praising children. But without proper energy control, accidents happen. Your magnetic acceleration systems seem particularly crude, the gas being observed. All that electrical noise and heat. True weapons work silently and cleanly. Our railgun systems are actually quite efficient, Hyojin said. Efficient at wasting energy, perhaps. The brain creature chuckled. Why use magnetism to push metal when you can simply dissolve? Your target? Different approaches to problem solving, Kyung-ho said diplomatically. One approach is primitive, the other is civilized, the Crystal Counselor stated firmly. This is why you need our guidance. The meeting continued for hours. The counselors discussed trade regulations, territorial restrictions, and educational programs. Humans would be allowed to visit certain systems under supervision. They could purchase basic technologies after proper safety training. They would be protected from advanced species who might take advantage of their innocence. Through it all, Kyung-ho nodded and smiled and thanked them for their generosity. Hyojin stood quietly, occasionally answering technical questions about human capabilities. Her answers were always truthful, but somehow never quite complete. As the session ended, the Crystal Counselor's voice rang out one final time. Welcome to the galaxy, humans. We hope you will learn quickly and perhaps someday join us as true equals. Thank you for this opportunity, Kyung-ho replied. We will work hard to prove ourselves worthy. The counselors' platforms began floating toward the exits, their conversations turning to other matters. The humans were dismissed, their place in the cosmic order established. Walking through the crystal corridors afterward, Hyojin spoke quietly to Kyung-ho. They really believe we're harmless. That's the idea, Kyung-ho replied, his diplomatic smile never wavering. Let them think what they need to think. The railgun comment was interesting. They have no idea what velocities we can achieve. No, Kyung-ho agreed. They don't understand material science either, or magnetic field manipulation, or a lot of things. Should we have told them more? Kyung-ho was quiet for a moment, looking out through the crystal walls at the alien sky. There will be time for that later. For now, let them see what they expect to see. And what's that? Primitive humans with primitive weapons, stumbling around the galaxy like lost children. Hyojin smiled. It was not a particularly nice smile. They have no idea what they're dealing with, do they? No, Kyung-ho said softly. They really don't. Outside, their small transport ship waited to take them home. It looked crude and simple compared to the elegant alien vessels around it. Just metal and electronics, powered by basic fusion drives. Nothing sophisticated about it at all. The engines hummed to life with a sound like distant thunder. Nexus Station floated in space like a metal flower, its arms reaching out to catch ships from across the galaxy. Commander Vexial watched from the control center as another human vessel approached the docking bay. The ship looked clumsy and basic, just like all human technology. Another primitive transport, he muttered to his assistant, a young Aquari named Blue Shin. Why do they even bother coming here? Trade permits, sir, Blue Shin bubbled softly. The council granted them limited commerce rights. Vexial's scaled skin rippled with annoyance. The Skarn were proud warriors, and he found it embarrassing to babysit these backward humans. Run the standard scans, make sure they're not carrying anything dangerous. The human ship, called Soul's Pride according to its registration, moved slowly toward the docking clamps. Its hull was scratched and dented, showing signs of long travel through space. Nothing like the smooth, energy-shielded vessels of civilized species. Sir, the scanning technician called out, I'm getting some unusual readings from their ship. What kind of readings? Vexial walked over to look at the displays, electromagnetic signatures. very strong ones, but the patterns don't match any known drive system. Probably just their crude fusion reactor, Vexiel decided. Humans haven't learned proper energy containment yet. The Soul's Pride docked with a series of mechanical clanks that echoed through the station. Modern ships connected silently using force fields and energy bridges, but humans still used physical clamps and airlocks like something from ancient history. Captain Dongwu emerged from his ship wearing a simple work uniform. He was a middle-aged human with calm eyes and steady hands. Behind him came his crew, Ma Young the engineer, Tae Ho the pilot, and several others. They looked like typical merchants, nothing special about them. "Welcome to Nexus Station," Vexiel said formally. "Please present your cargo manifest and trade permits." "Of course," Dongwu replied politely. He handed over a datapad with all the required information. "We're carrying rare earth metals from the Kepler system. Standard mining output." Vexiel glanced at the manifest. Iron, tungsten, some exotic alloys, basic materials that more advanced species had long since replaced with energy-based alternatives. "You may proceed to the commercial district. Stay in designated areas." "Thank you, Commander." As the humans walked away, Mi Young paused to look at the station's structure. "Impressive engineering," she said to Dongwu, "though I notice they rely heavily on energy fields for structural support." "Is that a problem?" Dongwu asked. "Not a problem, just different from our approach. We prefer more physical redundancy in our systems." Vexiel couldn't help overhearing. "Energy fields are far superior to crude metal frameworks," he called out. "Much more efficient and adaptable." Mi Young turned and smiled. "I'm sure they work well for you. We just like having backup systems. Old human habit. Backup systems? Physical supports, mag-rail cargo movers, kinetic stabilizers, things that work even if the power goes out." "Mag-rail cargo movers?" Blushin asked curiously. "Simple magnetic. Acceleration for moving heavy items around the ship. Nothing fancy, just practical." Vexiel dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. Typical human thinking, always adding unnecessary complications when elegant energy solutions existed. The humans continued toward the commercial section, leaving the Skarn officers to monitor other arriving ships. For 3 days, everything seemed normal. The Soul's Pride conducted standard trading activities, exchanging their basic metals for more advanced goods. Then, the pirates attacked. Captain Crexmore led a small fleet of Skarn raiders who lived outside the law. They had been watching Nexus Station for weeks, looking for easy targets. The human ship seemed perfect, primitive, lightly armed, carrying valuable cargo. "Look at this pathetic vessel." Crexmore laughed as his ships surrounded the Soul's Pride. "These humans won't even know what hit them." His lieutenant, Vorthak, activated their energy shields. "Shall we disable their engines first?" "Why bother? Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Let them fire their little metal bullets while we strip their ship clean." The attack began as the Soul's Pride undocked from the station. Crexmore's ships moved in fast, energy weapons charging. They expected the human vessel to surrender immediately, as any sensible primitive would. Instead, Captain Dongwu's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional. "Pirate vessels, you are in violation of galactic commerce laws. Withdraw immediately or face defensive action." Crexmore burst into laughter. "Defensive action? What are you going to do, throw rocks at us?" "Something like that," Dongwu replied. The Soul's Pride turned slowly to face the pirate ships. Its hull looked unchanged, but several panels had slid open to reveal what looked like simple metal tubes. Nothing threatening about them at all. "Target their cargo bay," Crexmore ordered. "We'll disable them without damaging the goods." His ships opened fire with standard energy beams. The weapons struck the Soul's Pride's hull and should have overloaded their primitive shields instantly. Instead, the beams seemed to scatter and dissipate against some kind of interference field. What? Forthak stared at his instruments. Our weapons aren't penetrating. Impossible, Crexmore snarled. Increase power! The pirates fired again with stronger beams. This time they saw the energy weapons strike what looked like a shimmering barrier around the human ship. The barrier absorbed the attack completely. On the Soul's Pride, Mi-young watched her instruments calmly. Their weapons are standard plasma-based systems. Our electromagnetic shielding is disrupting the particle streams. Effective range? Dongwu asked. Optimal targeting at current distance. Mag-rail systems show green across the board. Fire. The metal tubes on the human ship's hull made no visible flash or energy discharge. There was no dramatic light show. No burning beams crossing space. Just a faint electromagnetic pulse that most sensors couldn't even detect. 3 seconds later, Crexmore's flagship exploded. Not damaged, not disabled. Exploded. The ship simply came apart as if something had punched. A hole completely through it from front to back. What happened? Forthak screamed. What did they do? Before anyone could answer, the second pirate ship exploded in the same way. Then the third. In less than 10 seconds, the entire pirate fleet was nothing but expanding clouds of debris. Nexus Station, every sensor array was focused on the battle. The readings made no sense at all. Sir, the scanning technician said in a shaking voice, I'm detecting projectile impacts on the pirate vessels. Projectiles? Vexiel stared at the displays. What kind of projectiles? Small metallic objects. But sir, the velocity readings can't be right. What do they say? 12% of light speed, sir. That's impossible. Yes, sir. That's what I thought, too. The Soul's Pride had already turned away from the battle, continuing on its original course as if nothing had happened. Captain Dongwu's voice came over the station frequency again. Nexus Control. This is Soul's Pride. We have eliminated the pirate threat. Continuing to scheduled departure vector. Vexiel found his voice. Soul's Pride, how did you destroy those ships? Standard defensive systems control. Nothing special. Your weapons showed no energy discharge. That's correct. Our mag-rail systems don't use energy projection. Mag-rail systems? The cargo movers I mentioned earlier. They're quite versatile. Mi-young's voice joined the conversation. We just accelerated some metal slugs using magnetic fields. Basic kinetic energy transfer. The pirates' shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical impacts. At 12% light speed? Vexial's voice cracked. Is that fast? We usually operate at higher velocities for mining operations. Higher velocities? Well, yes. When you're breaking up asteroids, you need good penetration. But we dialed it down for combat. Didn't want to cause too much damage. The human ship continued moving away from the station, its engines humming with that same strange electromagnetic signature they'd detected earlier. Now, Vexial was beginning to understand what those readings really meant. Sir, Blueshin whispered, should we report this to command? Vexial watched the Soul's Pride disappear into hyperspace. The pirates were dead. The humans were gone. And the only evidence was floating debris and some very disturbing sensor logs. Report what? He said finally. That some primitive humans got lucky against poorly maintained pirate shields. But sir, the velocity readings were obviously equipment malfunctions. Humans don't have weapons that can accelerate projectiles to relativistic speeds. Of course not, sir. But as Vexial filed his official report, he couldn't stop thinking about Mi-young's casual comment about mining operations. If they used higher velocities for asteroid work, exactly how fast could human cargo movers really go? He decided he didn't want to know. The Helix Nebula glowed with colors that had no names in any human language. Streams of gas and dust spiraled through space, lit by the radiation of dying stars. It was beautiful, but Fleet Admiral Zephyros of the Aetheri Defense Force wasn't here for sightseeing. Begin the war games, he commanded from the bridge of his flagship, wings of glory. Around him, his officers moved with the precise coordination of a species that had been fighting space battles for millennia. The annual exercises were a tradition among the major galactic powers. Each year, different fleets would test their skills against each other in mock combat. It was good training, good politics, and good entertainment for the thousands of spectators who came to watch. This year was special, though. For the first time, humans had requested permission to participate. "Sir," his communications officer chirped in the musical Ethiri language, "the human vessel is requesting final approach clearance." Zephyros ruffled his brilliant blue feathers in amusement. "Let them come. This should be amusing." The human ship appeared on the main display as it dropped out of hyperspace. Zephyros had seen the technical specifications, but viewing it in person was even more disappointing. The vessel was an ugly metal brick with none of the elegant curves that marked advanced starship design. Its hull was gray and scarred, with obvious external armor plating welded over key systems. "What did they call it?" Zephyros asked. "Busan?" "Thunder, sir." "How perfectly primitive. Do we know anything about their captain?" "Her name is So-hee, former merchant marine according to their files." "A cargo hauler commanding a warship?" Zephyros clicked his beak in derision. "This will be over quickly." Around the nebula, other participants were taking their positions. The crystalline Veltari brought their ship Harmony of Light, its transparent hull gleaming with internal energy, patterns. The aquatic Aquari fielded Deep Current, a spherical vessel that moved through space like it was swimming through water. Even the younger species had impressive ships, sleek, fast, armed with the latest energy weapons. And then there was Busan Thunder, looking like someone had stuck engines on a flying asteroid. "All participants, this is Admiral Zephyros commanding. The exercise," he announced on the general frequency. "Today's scenario is a multi-faction engagement. Each ship must survive and eliminate as many opponents as possible. Energy weapons only. No physical munitions that might damage the nebula's delicate ecosystem." Captain So-hee's voice came back over the radio, calm and professional. "Admiral, we'll need clarification on that rule." "What clarification?" "Our weapons aren't energy-based. We use kinetic systems." Several alien captains laughed on the open channel. "Did she say kinetic?" someone asked in disbelief. "Confirmed," So-hee replied. "Magnetic acceleration systems, very precise, minimal environmental impact." "Magnetic acceleration?" Zephyros was puzzled. "You mean like primitive railguns?" "Yes, sir, though our systems are quite advanced." More laughter from the other ships. The Veltari captain's voice chimed like crystal bells. "Perhaps we should allow them to use their ancient weapons. It might make the exercise more educational." "Very well," Zephyros decided. "Humans are permitted to use kinetic weapons. All other restrictions remain in force." "Thank you, Admiral." The ships spread out across the nebula, taking positions among the gas clouds and stellar debris. Zephyros positioned Wings of Glory near the center, where he could observe the entire battlefield. His ship's energy shields were at full power, weapons charged and ready. "Exercise begins in 30 seconds, he announced. "On her bridge, Captain." So-hee watched the tactical display with calm attention. Her crew moved quietly around their stations, making final preparations. The ship's weapons officer, Jin Woo, reported ready status on all systems. "Targets?" So-hee asked. "Multiple contacts. The Veltari ship is closest, range 40,000 kilometers. The Aquari vessel is holding position behind that gas cloud. Combat distance? We're well within optimal range for all targets. Exercise begins now." The battle erupted instantly. Energy beams lanced through space as the various ships opened fire on each other. Shields flared and sparked as advanced weapons systems unleashed their power. The Veltari ship spun through a complex dance, its crystal hull refracting laser beams into beautiful patterns. The Aquari vessel moved like a living thing, dodging between asteroids with fluid grace. The human ship did nothing. Busan Thunder hung motionless in space, apparently watching the battle unfold around it. Several energy beams struck its hull, but primitive armor plating absorbed the impacts. The ship made no attempt to return fire. "Are they surrendering already?" asked the Veltari captain. "Maybe their weapons don't work," suggested someone else. Zephyros frowned. The human ship was just sitting there, doing nothing. It was almost insulting. "Captain Sohee, are you experiencing technical difficulties?" "No, sir. Just waiting for targets to close to effective range." "You're already well within weapons range." "For energy weapons, yes. We prefer closer engagement distances." Zephyros clicked his beak in frustration. The humans were obviously out of their depth. Their primitive weapons couldn't reach targets at proper combat distances. This was going to be embarrassing for everyone involved. The other ships continued their battle, gradually moving closer to each other as the engagement intensified. Standard naval doctrine called for maintaining distance while hammering opponents with long-range energy weapons. But as the battle progressed, the faster ships began closing in for finishing moves. The Veltari ship accelerated toward what it thought was an easy target, the motionless human vessel. Its captain intended to disable the primitive ship with a close-range energy pulse, a dramatic finish to demonstrate Crystal Technology's superiority. "Harmony of light closing on the human ship," Zephyros observed. "This should end quickly." The crystalline vessel swept in toward Busan Thunder, its hull blazing with stored energy. At 5,000 kilometers, it began its attack run, preparing to unleash enough power to overwhelm any primitive shielding. Captain Sohee spoke quietly to her weapons officer. "Target acquired?" "Confirmed. Optimal firing solution. Fire." There was no flash of light, no visible beam crossing space. For just an instant, the human ship's hull showed a brief electromagnetic flicker, like heat shimmer on a summer day. Then harmony of light exploded, not gradually, not dramatically. One moment it was a beautiful crystalline starship accelerating through space. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of glittering debris. "What?" Zephyros stared at his instruments in shock. "What just happened?" His sensor officer's voice was shaking. "Sir, I'm reading a projectile impact on the Veltari ship." "A projectile? What kind of projectile?" "Metallic slug, approximately 1 kilogram mass." "Impact velocity." The officer paused, checking his readings again. "Sir, this can't be right." "What does it say?" 12% of light speed, sir." The bridge fell silent. 12% of light speed was faster than most energy weapons. It was faster than anything physical should be able to move. "That's impossible," Zephyros whispered. "Yes, sir." Captain Sohee's voice came over the radio, still perfectly calm. "Harmony of light eliminated. Acquiring next target." The Aquari ship. Deep current had been moving to flank the human vessel, confident that its advanced shields would protect it from primitive weapons. Now it tried desperately to change course, but spherical ships weren't built for quick maneuvering. "Fire," Sohee said again. Another electromagnetic flicker from Busan Thunder, another explosion as a relativistic projectile punched completely through the Aquari vessel's hull. "2 targets eliminated," Jinwoo reported. "Multiple contacts still active. Continue engagement." The remaining ships scattered in panic, trying to get away from the human vessel. But Busan Thunder was already turning toward new targets, its ugly hull tracking multiple contacts with mechanical precision. Over the next 5 minutes, Captain Sohee systematically destroyed every other ship in the exercise. Each time, the pattern was the same. A brief electromagnetic pulse from the human vessel, followed by a devastating kinetic impact that no shield could stop. When it was over, Busan Thunder floated alone among the wreckage of the Galactic Fleet's finest warships. "Exercise concluded," Sohee announced calmly. "All targets eliminated." Zephyros found his voice. "Captain Sohee, what kind of weapons are you using?" "Standard magnetic acceleration systems, Admiral. We call them railguns." Railguns that fire projectiles at 12% of light speed? That's our normal combat velocity, yes. We can go faster if needed, but it tends to cause excessive target damage. Faster? Our mining systems operate at about 20% of light speed. But those are designed for asteroid breakup, not ship-to-ship combat. The radio channel fell silent. In the wreckage around them, emergency beacons were activating as the crews of destroyed ships reported their status. The exercise had been so one-sided that most alien crews hadn't even had time to realize they were under attack. "Admiral," so he continued, "our technical staff would be happy to share information about magnetic acceleration technology. It's really quite simple once you understand the principles." Simple? Basic electromagnetic physics. Any species with fusion power should be able to build similar systems. War leader Krex Toth stood on the bridge of his flagship, Iron Fang, and stared at the intelligence reports spread across his command table. The papers told an impossible story, but the evidence was clear. Humans were not the primitive species. Everyone believed them to be. "You're certain about these readings?" he asked his intelligence officer. "The battle at Helix Nebula was recorded by multiple sources, War Leader. The human vessel destroyed 12 advanced warships using kinetic weapons that achieved 12% of light speed." Krex Toth's massive form shifted impatiently. The Korath Empire had built its reputation on military strength, and he didn't. Like the idea of some unknown species possessing superior weapons technology, the Galactic Council claims it was some kind of fluke, equipment malfunctions, lucky shots. Perhaps, War Leader. But our scientists have analyzed the debris patterns. The impacts were precise and deliberate. No random luck could achieve such results. "Then we test them ourselves," Krex Toth decided. "If these humans truly possess advanced weapons, the Empire needs to know. And if they're still just primitives with a few lucky shots, we'll prove it." The war leader had chosen his target carefully. Kepler 442b was a human mining colony on the edge of their territory. According to all reports, it was lightly defended. With only civilian installations, the perfect place to test human capabilities without risking a major incident. "How many ships?" asked his second-in-command, Captain Vorgash. "A full battle group. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 escort vessels. Enough to handle any surprises these humans might have." "And if the humans truly do have advanced weapons?" "Then we'll learn that before anyone else does." "Knowledge is power, Captain. The Empire that understands human capabilities first will have a significant advantage." The Korath fleet moved through hyperspace toward the mining colony. Krex Toth spent the journey studying everything known about human military technology. The reports were frustratingly incomplete. Humans used kinetic weapons and magnetic acceleration systems, but no one seemed to understand exactly what that meant. "War Leader," the navigation officer reported, "we're approaching the target system. Drop to normal space outside sensor. Range. I want to observe the colony before we begin the attack." The Korath ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Through long-range sensors, they could see the mining colony spread across the third planet's surface. It looked exactly as expected: industrial facilities, ore processing plants, and a small civilian spaceport. "Defensive installations?" Krex Toth asked. "Minimal, War Leader. I detect 3 small orbital platforms and what appears to be a ground-based control center. No major weapons signatures." "Crew complements?" "Perhaps 10,000 civilians total, mostly miners and support staff." "Perfect." Krex Toth activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, prepare for combat operations. We'll begin with a standard intimidation approach. If they surrender immediately, we'll simply occupy the colony and study their equipment. If they resist, we demonstrate superior Korath firepower." Vorgash finished. The fleet moved deeper into the system, making no attempt to hide their approach. The humans would detect them soon enough, and Krex Toth wanted to give them time to consider surrender. He preferred winning through fear rather than actual fighting when possible. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Defense Coordinator Hyun Woo watched the approaching fleet on his tactical display. He was a quiet man who had spent most of his career managing mining equipment, but his personnel file contained some interesting gaps in his employment history. 42 hostile ships, reported his assistant, Yoon Soo. Korath configuration, heavy weapons load. Civilian evacuation status. All non-essential personnel are in the deep shelters. Essential staff are standing by at assigned positions. Good. Hyun-woo activated the communication system. All stations, this is Defense Control. Implement Protocol 7. Across the colony, things began to change. What had looked like simple mining equipment started moving into new positions. Ore processors extended hidden weapon mounts. Power plants increased output to military levels. The 3 orbital platforms revealed additional hull sections that had been disguised as industrial modules. Incoming transmission from the Korath fleet, Yoon Soo reported. Put them on screen. War leader Krextoth's scaled face appeared on the main display. Human colony, you are now under the authority of the Korath Empire. Surrender immediately, and you will not be harmed. This is Defense Coordinator Hyun-woo, he replied calmly. You are in violation of galactic territorial agreements. Withdraw immediately. Krextoth laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. You are outnumbered 42 ships to none. Your 3 little platforms cannot stand against a full Korath battle group. We have more than 3 platforms. Where? Our sensors show only minimal defenses. Perhaps your sensors need calibration, Hyun-woo suggested. The Korath war leader studied his tactical display. It still showed the same readings, a lightly defended mining colony with no significant military installations. You're bluffing, human. Prepare to be boarded. I strongly advise against that course of action. And I strongly advise you to surrender while you still can. Krextoth cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. Target their orbital platforms. Disable them with minimum force. Yes, war leader. The Korath fleet opened fire. With precision energy beams designed to overload the platform's power systems without destroying them completely. The aliens wanted to capture human technology intact, not vaporize it. The beams struck the 3 visible platforms and achieved exactly nothing. The structures absorbed the energy weapons completely, their shields barely flickering under the assault. Increase power, Krextoth ordered. The second volley was stronger, enough to penetrate any known defensive system. Again, the platforms absorbed the attack with no visible damage. War leader, the sensor officer called out. I'm detecting unusual electromagnetic readings from the planet's surface. What kind of readings? Similar to what we recorded at the Helix Nebula battle. Very strong magnetic fields building up in multiple locations. Krextoth felt the first touch of unease. How many locations? I count 17 separate sources, war leader. No, wait, 23. The readings are increasing. On the planet's surface, Hyun-woo watched his tactical display as hidden installations. Across the colony came online. Mining equipment that was actually disguised military hardware, or processing facilities that were really weapon platforms. Even the asteroid mining ships in orbit were revealing their true nature. All systems show green, Yoon Soo reported. Mag rail batteries are charged and ready. Target acquisition. Full target lock on all hostile vessels. Firing solutions computed and verified. Very good. Hyun-woo activated the communication system. Again. Korath fleet, this is your final warning. Leave this system immediately. Krextoth's voice came back angry and sarcastic. Or what? You'll throw rocks at us? Something like that, Hyun-woo replied. Fire! The mining colony erupted with electromagnetic pulses as dozens of hidden railgun installations fired simultaneously. From the surface, from orbit, from concealed positions throughout the asteroid belt, tungsten slugs accelerated to 20% of light speed. The Korath fleet never had a chance. 12 heavy cruisers and 30 escort vessels were struck by projectiles moving faster than their sensors could track. The relativistic impacts punched completely through energy shields, armor plating, and hull structures as if they weren't there. Ships that had survived battles across the galaxy were reduced to expanding clouds of debris in seconds. War Leader. Krextoth had just enough time to see his tactical display light up with impossible velocity readings before Iron Fang exploded around him. The entire battle lasted 11 seconds. In the aftermath, rescue beacons activated throughout the debris field. The humans had deliberately targeted engine compartments and weapon systems, leaving life support sections intact when possible. Korath survivors were quickly picked up by human ships and given medical treatment. "Damage report?" Hyunwoo asked. "No damage to colony installations," Yunsu replied. "All defensive systems operating normally. Mag rail batteries are recharging. For second volley if needed. Casualties? None among our personnel. Korath casualties are approximately 60% KIA, 40% wounded or rescued. Send the full battle report to Earth Command. Include sensor logs and targeting data." "Yes, sir. Should we mention the mag rail velocity settings?" "Include everything. Earth needs to know that our 20% systems performed as expected." Yunsu paused in her data compilation. "Sir, the Korath were completely helpless against our weapons. Their shields couldn't stop relativistic projectiles at all. That's what we expected. Energy-based defenses are ineffective against kinetic weapons at these velocities. But they didn't know that. No one in the galaxy seems to understand how our weapons actually work." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "That's been our advantage so far. But after today, word will spread. The galaxy is going to realize that humans aren't as primitive as they assumed. Is that a problem? Probably, but it was inevitable. We couldn't hide our capabilities forever." Across the galaxy, news of the Korath defeat spread quickly. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called at 3 hours' notice. Representatives from every major species gathered in the Great Crystal Hall of Veltar Prime, their voices mixing in a chaos of fear and confusion. The Outer Rim colonies are gone, reported the Aquari delegate, her tentacles writhing in distress. 7 worlds stripped of all life in less than a week. The Korath battle fleet sent to investigate never returned, added the Skarn representative. No distress signals, no debris. They simply vanished. Councillor Shardanis called for order, his crystal form glowing with agitation. "The threat is confirmed. The Devourers have arrived." A collective shudder ran through the assembly. Every species in the galaxy had heard the ancient warnings passed down through countless generations. Beyond the rim of known space, something waited in the darkness between galaxies. Something that had consumed entire civilizations and left nothing but empty worlds behind. "How many ships?" asked the Nethys delegate, his gas form swirling nervously. "Our long-range sensors detect at least 10,000 vessels, possibly more. They're advancing toward the galactic core at maximum speed. What about our defenses?" Useless. The Korath threw everything they had at the first wave. Energy weapons, plasma cannons, quantum disruptors. Nothing worked. The Devourer ships absorbed every attack. Ambassador Kyung-ho listened to the panicked discussions from his seat in the human section. He had been expecting this moment for decades, but it still felt surreal to finally hear the words spoken aloud. "What about evacuation?" someone suggested. "We could retreat deeper into the galaxy, buy time to develop new weapons." "There is nowhere to retreat to," Shardanis replied grimly. "The Devourers have consumed 17 galaxies. They don't stop. They don't negotiate. They don't leave anything alive behind them." "Then what do we do?" The hall fell silent. The greatest minds in the galaxy had no answer to the approaching doom. Kyung-ho stood up slowly. "If I may suggest something." A few delegates turned to look at him, but most ignored the human representative. They had more important things to worry about than primitive species with metal weapons. The humans have experience with kinetic weapons. Kyung-ho continued. Perhaps we could coordinate our defense efforts. The Veltari counselor's voice chimed with bitter amusement. Your railguns won't help us now, human. These are not pirates or raiders. This is an extinction-level threat. I understand the gravity of the situation. Do you? The Devourers have technology beyond anything we've ever encountered. Their ships are immune to every weapon system we possess. What could your primitive kinetics possibly accomplish? Kyung-ho was quiet for a moment, looking around the hall at the terrified faces of the galaxy's leaders. Perhaps more than you might expect. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the crystal walls in red, and automated voices announced incoming priority transmissions. Counselors, the station commander's voice echoed through the hall. We're receiving a distress signal from the Rigel system. The Devourers have reached the inner colonies. The main display activated, showing grainy footage from a dying world. Massive black ships blotted out the sun as they descended toward the planet's surface. Where they touched down, the very ground seemed to dissolve, consumed by some invisible force that turned living matter into raw energy. Estimated time until they reach core systems? Shardanis asked. 72 hours, Counselor. 3 days. The galaxy had 3 days before the heart of civilization fell to the Devourers. We need to evacuate the core worlds, someone shouted. We need to call for reinforcements from the outer sectors, another voice demanded. There are no reinforcements, the Skarn delegate roared. Everyone who could fight is already here. The arguments continued, but Kyung-ho wasn't listening anymore. He activated his personal communicator and spoke quietly into it. Control, this is Ambassador 1. Initiate Revelation Protocol. Confirmed, Ambassador 1, beginning revelation sequence. Across the galaxy, things began to change. On Earth's moon, massive construction covers retracted to reveal weapon installations that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Railgun batteries capable of accelerating projectiles to 30% of light speed emerged from craters that had been hiding them for centuries. In the asteroid belts of hundreds of systems, mining equipment revealed its true nature. Facilities that had been disguised as ore processors were actually mass drivers capable of launching tungsten slugs across interstellar distances. Human trade ships throughout the galaxy began shedding their cargo bay disguises, revealing weapon systems and shield generators that made the Council's finest warships look primitive by comparison. And from deep space, where long-range scanners had never detected them, the real human fleet began moving toward the galactic core. Back in the council chamber, the emergency discussions were interrupted by an aide rushing up to Counselor Shardanis. The crystal being's form flared with shock as he read the message. Counselors, his voice rang through the hall. Our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. Unknown vessels are emerging from stealth positions. On the main display, the tactical overview shifted to show the galaxy-wide sensor network. Where human space had once appeared sparsely populated with simple colonies and trade routes, the display now showed thousands of military installations and hundreds of advanced warships. What is this? The Aquari delegate gasped. Kyung-ho stood up again, and this time every eye in the hall was focused on him. This is humanity's true defense network. We've been preparing for the Devourers since we first detected their approach. 300 years ago. 300 years? Shardanis' voice cracked like breaking glass. You've known about them for 300 years? Our deep space monitoring stations detected the destruction of the Whirlpool Galaxy in 2387. We've been tracking the Devourers' progress ever since. And you said nothing? Would you have listened? Would any of you have believed that primitive humans had detected a threat that your advanced civilizations missed? The hall fell silent. They all knew the answer. Instead, Kyung-ho continued, we prepared. Every human colony you've seen is a military installation. Every trade route we've established is a supply line for our defense network. Every simple merchant you've dismissed is a trained soldier. The display updated to show the true scope of human preparations. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields, battleships disguised as mining vessels, entire worlds converted into fortress systems, their populations trained for the war that was coming. Fleet Admiral Min-ho will coordinate the defense, Kyung-ho announced. Our ships are already moving to intercept the Devourer fleet. A new voice spoke from the chambers. Communication system calm and professional. This is Admiral Min-ho commanding the human defense fleet. All galactic forces are requested to maintain safe distance while we engage the hostile fleet. You can't fight them alone, the Skarn delegate protested. The Devourers have 10,000 ships. We have more, Min-ho replied simply. The display shifted to show the approaching battle. The Devourer fleet was a dark mass moving through space, their black ships absorbing light and energy from everything around them. They had consumed worlds and civilizations across 17 galaxies, and nothing had ever slowed their advance. Until now, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Not hundreds of ships, but thousands. Massive battleships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever built, accompanied by clouds of smaller vessels that moved with mechanical precision. Admiral, came a voice from one of the human ships. All weapon systems show ready. Mass drivers are charged to maximum velocity. Very good, Captain Haywan. Begin the attack. What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. The humans didn't use energy weapons or exotic physics. They simply accelerated metal projectiles to incredible speeds and fired them at their targets. But the velocities were impossible. 30% of light speed. 40%. Some of the largest human weapons achieved speeds that approached the limit of what matter could withstand. The Devourer ships, immune to every energy weapon the galaxy possessed, found themselves facing something entirely different. Relativistic projectiles struck their hulls with the force of nuclear weapons, punching through armor and shielding that had never been touched by conventional attacks. Impossible, Chardenis whispered, watching the display as Devourer ships began exploding under the human barrage. How are they achieving such velocities? Kyung-ho smiled. 300 years of materials science research. Magnetic field manipulation techniques that your species dismissed as primitive. And most importantly, the understanding that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. The battle continued for 6 hours. The Devourers fought back with weapons that turned space itself into a weapon, but they couldn't adapt to kinetic impacts at relativistic speeds. Their technology was designed to absorb and redirect energy, not to stop physical matter moving at near-light velocity. One by one, the black ships fell silent. When it was over, the galaxy's ancient enemy was nothing but expanding debris clouds, drifting through space. All hostile contacts eliminated, Admiral Min-ho reported. Devourer fleet has been completely destroyed.